Being nice is not the same as being kind. One is about pleasing others. The other is about respecting yourself. From a young age, we're taught to be nice. Say yes, don't make waves, and always put others first. We're told it's the right thing to do. And while there's nothing wrong with being kind, here's the truth. Nobody really tells you. Being too nice can quietly sabotage your success. Niceness, when rooted in fear of conflict or the need for approval, becomes a trap. You say yes when you mean no. You tolerate what drains you. You avoid difficult conversations to keep everyone comfortable, except yourself. And in doing so, you give away your energy, your time, and eventually your power. The harsh reality is that success doesn't reward the overly agreeable. It rewards the bold, the focused, the ones willing to make uncomfortable decisions, draw the line, and walk away when necessary. That kind of success demands a mindset that values truth over comfort, boundaries over approval, and growth over people-pleasing. This lecture isn't about becoming ruthless in a cold-hearted way. It's about becoming ruthless in protecting your purpose. Because the life you want won't be handed to the person trying to please everyone. Today I'm going to show you why being too nice could be the biggest obstacle between you and the life you deserve. Stay with me for the next few minutes as I unpack the dark side of niceness and how embracing a more empowered mindset can change everything. Let's dive in. Number 1, the trap of people-pleasing. People-pleasing might feel like the right thing to do. It feels polite, considerate, even admirable. You say yes to help, to avoid conflict, or just to be liked. But here's the harsh truth. When you constantly aim to please others, you slowly disappear from your own life. You start doing things not because they align with your goals, but because you don't want to let someone else down. You're afraid of how you'll be perceived if you say no. And the more you do it, the more people expect it from you. Over time, your needs, your time, and your dreams get pushed to the bottom of the list. It might seem harmless at first, saying yes to a friend's favor, taking on extra work, avoiding a disagreement. But soon, your schedule isn't yours anymore. Your energy is spent, and your goals, they're sitting on the shelf gathering dust. People-pleasing isn't kindness, it's self-abandonment in disguise. Take the story of Clara, a brilliant marketing strategist who never said no. Her coworkers loved her, her boss relied on her, and her inbox never stopped buzzing. She was agreeable, helpful, and completely burned out. When promotion time came around, Clara was overlooked. Why? Because no one saw her as a leader. They only saw her as the person who made everyone else's life easier. She had made herself too available, too nice, too safe, and it cost her. You can be a good person without being a pushover. Being respected and being liked are not the same. The moment you start living to gain approval is the moment you hand over the steering wheel of your life. And trust me, no one else is going to drive you toward your dream. Start with this. Say no when you mean no. Set limits even if it feels uncomfortable. Speak your truth even if your voice shakes. Because the price of people-pleasing is always paid in silence. And that silence keeps you stuck. You weren't put here to live according to everyone else's expectations. You were put here to build, lead, and live with purpose. And purpose doesn't thrive in the shadows of constant compromise. So if you feel like you're doing everything for everyone and getting nowhere, it's time to step back. Reclaim your voice. Reclaim your focus. Stop trying to please everyone and start choosing yourself. Number 2, the fear of conflict. Let's talk about something that stops more dreams than failure ever could. It's the fear of conflict. Conflict makes people uncomfortable. It's messy, unpredictable, and emotionally draining. So most people avoid it at all costs. They stay silent when they should speak up. They agree when they don't. They let others take the lead, even when they know the direction is wrong. And all of it is done in the name of keeping the peace. But here's the truth. Peace that comes from suppressing your voice isn't peace at all. It's quiet surrender. And when you're constantly choosing comfort over confrontation, you're giving away your power one decision at a time. Success requires difficult conversations. It demands that you speak your mind, challenge ideas, and sometimes stand alone. If you're afraid of upsetting others, you'll always compromise yourself. And the danger in that is, you start shrinking to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. Take the story of James, a young co-founder of a tech startup. James had the vision, the passion, and the drive. But his business partner was more dominant, more outspoken, and often pushed the company in a direction that clashed with James's long-term vision. Instead of confronting the issues, James stayed quiet. He didn't want to create tension. He didn't want to seem difficult. So he nodded, smiled, and went along with decisions he didn't believe in. Months passed. The startup grew, but not in the way James had envisioned. Eventually, he was pushed out of key decisions, and the company morphed into something he didn't recognize. Why? Because he feared conflict more than he valued his vision. And by the time he realized what he had sacrificed, it was too late. Conflict isn't something to fear, it's something to master. Because when handled with clarity and confidence, conflict creates growth. It clears the air. It aligns goals. It builds respect. The strongest leaders aren't the ones who avoid conflict. They're the ones who face it head-on and come out stronger on the other side. Avoiding conflict doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make you more mature. It just makes you invisible in your own story. Think about that for a moment. Every time you swallow your truth to keep things smooth, you lose a bit of your identity. Being nice doesn't mean silent. It means speaking truth with compassion. It means being clear without being cruel. And most importantly, it means honoring your boundaries, even if it ruffles a few feathers. You don't need to go looking for fights, but you do need to stop running from them when they matter. Start small, stand up for yourself in meetings, speak your truth in relationships, ask hard questions, give honest feedback. When you learn to navigate conflict with emotional intelligence and courage, you become unstoppable. You can't build a bold life while avoiding bold conversations and success. It lives on the other side of those conversations. Remember, not all conflict is negative. Sometimes it's the very thing that sparks transformation, that clears confusion, that reveals who's really in your corner. The more comfortable you get with discomfort, the more power you gain. So stop fearing the fallout. Stop worrying about being liked every second of the day. Respect is built in the moments where you stand your ground, not when you stay quiet to keep things easy. Because when your dreams are on the line, silence is not strength, it's self-betrayal. Number 3, when approval becomes an addiction. Let's get real. Approval feels good. It's validating. It makes you feel seen, accepted, and valued. From childhood, we're conditioned to seek it. A pat on the back, a gold star, a great job from someone in charge. And so we learn to chase it. But what happens when that chase becomes your identity? When your worth depends on other people's applause, you stop living for yourself. You make decisions not based on what you want, but on what will make others happy. You shape your personality to match what's expected. You play it safe so you don't ruffle feathers. You try to be everything for everyone. And in doing so, you slowly become nothing to yourself. Seeking approval is a trap. It's a silent addiction because it doesn't look harmful on the outside. In fact, it looks like you're doing great. You're liked. You're agreeable. You're so easy to work with. But behind the smile is someone constantly scanning the room, wondering, do they approve of me? Did I say too much? Was I too much? Now imagine the story of Rachel, a high school English teacher with a gift for storytelling. She always dreamed of writing her own novel. She had the ideas, the passion, and the talent. But every time she sat down to write, she'd hear the voices of her colleagues, her students, even her family. What will they think? What if they don't take me seriously? What if it's not good enough? So instead of chasing her dream, she kept being the favorite teacher. The one who stayed after hours. The one who filled in for others. The one who everyone liked. And 10 years passed before she even started chapter 1 of her own story. Because her need to be approved of, admired, accepted, became stronger than her desire to succeed on her own terms. Here's the truth. The constant need for approval is just another form of fear. Fear of rejection, fear of being misunderstood, fear of failure, and fear is no foundation for greatness. You were not born to live according to other people's expectations. Approval should be a bonus, not your goal. Because here's the thing, you can't please everyone. No matter how careful you are, how kind you are, how polished your image is, someone will misunderstand you. Someone will criticize you. And if you're addicted to their approval, that criticism will crush you. But if you know who you are and you're grounded in your vision, you'll realize that approval doesn't define you. Your actions do. The successful people didn't rise to the top by being liked. They rose because they made bold decisions. They took risks that others didn't understand. They were willing to be disliked in the short term to build something meaningful in the long term. Start measuring your actions by your own standards. Ask yourself, does this choice align with my goals? Does it reflect who I want to become? Not, will this make everyone happy? Because trying to be liked by everyone is the fastest way to lose yourself. This doesn't mean you should ignore feedback or isolate yourself. It means you need to filter opinions through the lens of your own purpose. Not everyone's voice deserves the same volume in your life. Respect those who offer honest, constructive feedback, but don't shape your world around critics who don't understand your vision. Reclaim your power. Stop looking for permission. You don't need someone else to approve of your dreams to make them valid. What you need is clarity, commitment, and the courage to move forward, even when not everyone cheers you on. When you stop seeking constant approval, you finally start creating your own success story on your terms. Number 4, saying yes to everything. The silent killer. At first glance, saying yes seems like a positive trait. It makes you look helpful, dependable, and eager to contribute. Whether it's a task at work, a favor for a friend, or another commitment you didn't plan for, saying yes feels like the right thing to do. But underneath that habit is a dangerous pattern that slowly drains your energy and steals your focus. The more you say yes to everything, the less time you have for the things that truly matter. Every yes is a trade. You're trading your time, your energy, and your attention. When you give those things away too freely, you leave little left for your own goals. Most people don't realize this until they're already overwhelmed. They wake up one day buried under obligations and wonder why they're exhausted, frustrated, and no closer to their dreams. That's what happens when yes becomes your default response. Take Lena, a freelance graphic designer with a dream to build her own creative agency. She had talent, vision, and ambition, but she couldn't stop saying yes. Every client who reached out, she agreed to work with, regardless of budget, scope, or fit. She was afraid to turn anyone down, afraid that saying no would mean lost income or damage to her reputation. But over time, her calendar filled with work that drained her. She had no space to develop her brand or pursue her bigger goals. Her dream didn't die overnight. It was slowly buried under a mountain of other people's demands. Saying yes to everything isn't generosity. It's often fear wearing a friendly disguise. Fear of missing out, fear of disappointing others, fear of confrontation, or fear of not being needed. But when fear is the reason behind your yes, you lose control of your time and your life. You start living reactively instead of intentionally. Saying yes all the time also sends a message to yourself and to others. It tells people your time is flexible, your boundaries are negotiable, and your priorities come last. The more often you say yes without thinking, the more others expect you to always be available. And when you finally push back, they're surprised or even upset. But the real problem isn't them. It's the pattern you created. It's time to break that pattern. The most successful people aren't the ones who do everything. They're the ones who do the right things. They protect their time like it's their most valuable asset. Because it is. They're not afraid to say no when something doesn't align with their goals. They don't fill every slot on the calendar just to stay busy. They create space for deep work, rest, reflection, and strategy. You need to treat your yes like gold. Before committing to anything, ask yourself, does this move me closer to the life I want? Will I regret saying yes to this? Am I doing this out of obligation, guilt, or fear? If your answer isn't a clear yes rooted in purpose, it's probably a no in disguise. That doesn't mean you become selfish or unhelpful. It means you become focused. Being helpful is a choice, not a requirement. And the best way to help others is to stay aligned with your purpose. When you operate from clarity instead of chaos, everyone benefits. Start small. Say no to one thing this week that you'd normally accept out of guilt. Block off time on your calendar just for your personal goals. Let people know your boundaries and stick to them. The discomfort of saying no is temporary, but the confidence you gain from reclaiming your time, that lasts. You weren't meant to be everything to everyone. You were meant to do work that matters, to live with purpose, and to make an impact. That only happens when you protect your focus. So stop scattering your energy. Start using your yes with intention. Your future depends on it. Number 5. Boundaries build empires. There's a myth that strong boundaries push people away. That saying no makes you selfish or setting limits means you're cold. But here's the truth. Boundaries are not walls. They're foundations. And if you want to build something powerful, lasting, and meaningful, you need boundaries like steel. Think of boundaries as the blueprint for your time, your energy, and your mental space. Without them, everything leaks. You let people take advantage of your kindness. You say yes to tasks that drain you. You stay in conversations too long, tolerate relationships that don't serve you, and stretch yourself thin trying to be everything for everyone. And then you wonder why you're exhausted, burned out, and stuck. Boundaries aren't a luxury for the elite. They're a necessity for anyone who wants to grow. Without clear boundaries, success becomes nearly impossible, because everything and everyone will fight for your attention. And if you don't defend your time, someone else will use it for their priorities, not yours. Take Marcus, a professional athlete who spent years overcommitting media appearances, extra training sessions, personal favors, team events. He wanted to be seen as a team player. He didn't want to let anyone down, but his performance started slipping. He was tired, mentally distracted, and physically overworked. It wasn't until a coach pulled him aside and said, "If you don't start protecting your schedule, your career will protect itself by ending early." That moment changed everything. Marcus started turning things down. He hired a team to manage his time, stuck to a routine, and began saying no without guilt. And guess what? His performance skyrocketed. The same principle applies to any field: business, art, relationships. You can't be fully present in anything if you're constantly distracted by everything. Boundaries allow you to narrow your focus. They protect your time from being devoured by the urgent but unimportant. They give you the space to think, to create, to grow. One of the biggest reasons people avoid setting boundaries is guilt. They're afraid of being perceived as rude, difficult, or selfish. But setting boundaries isn't about rejecting people. It's about respecting yourself. When you communicate your limits clearly and calmly, you tell others what matters to you. And most people will respect that if you enforce it consistently. Boundaries also reveal who truly respects your path. The people who care about your growth won't push past your limits. They'll understand when you say, "I can't take that on right now," or "I need time for myself." The ones who get angry or guilt trip you, they were never rooting for your growth in the first place. They were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. The beauty of boundaries is that they create clarity. Instead of reacting to every request or crisis, you begin to respond with intention. You stop asking, "How can I fit this in?" and start asking, "Does this fit into my bigger vision?" That one shift changes everything. And boundaries aren't just for protecting time. They protect your mental energy too. Maybe it's choosing not to engage in gossip or drama. Maybe it's limiting how often you check your phone or social media. Maybe it's spending less time with people who always leave you feeling drained. Every decision you make about where to place your energy is a boundary in action. People often confuse being accessible with being valuable. But your worth isn't measured by how available you are to others. It's measured by how aligned you are with your purpose. The more you protect your path, the more value you bring to the world. Not by being everything to everyone, but by being focused, intentional, and excellent at what matters most. The most successful people you admire, they didn't get there by doing everything for everyone. They got there by learning how to say no without apology, by being clear about their values, by structuring their lives in a way that fuels growth, not burnout. Their boundaries weren't obstacles, they were tools. So if you want to build your own empire, your business, your career, your creative vision, it starts by protecting the space it needs to grow. You don't owe anyone an explanation for defending your time, your peace, or your energy. The life you want to create deserves a strong foundation, and that foundation is built with boundaries. Number 6, emotions versus execution. We live in a world that constantly tells us to follow our feelings. Trust your gut. Listen to your heart. Go with what feels right. And while emotions are important, powerful, they can also be misleading, especially when it comes to building success. The truth is, your emotions and your execution won't always agree. There will be days when you don't feel like doing the work, when fear tries to take the wheel, or when doubt clouds your decisions. If you let your emotions control your actions, your goals will always come second to your mood, and that's a dangerous way to live. Success doesn't care if you're tired, scared, or uncomfortable. It responds to action. And the people who rise above the rest are the ones who learn to move forward despite how they feel. They don't let temporary emotions dictate permanent results. Consider the story of Priya, a restaurant owner who ran a small but beloved cafe in her city. She had a loyal customer base, a supportive team, and a great location. But one of her longtime employees, someone she'd worked with since day one, began showing up late, ignoring procedures, and undermining other staff. Priya knew what had to be done, but emotionally she was torn. This employee had been there from the beginning. They'd shared late nights, tough seasons, and victories. Firing her felt cruel, so she delayed. She had conversations, issued warnings, offered chances, but nothing changed. Meanwhile, team morale dropped, customers complained, and the quality of service declined. Priya finally realized she wasn't running a business anymore. She was managing emotional baggage, and that hesitation was costing her everything she'd built. Eventually, she made the hard call. Letting that person go wasn't cold, it was necessary. And almost immediately, the atmosphere improved. Her team regained focus. Customers returned. Priya learned the lesson most people avoid. Emotion might make you hesitate, but execution is what changes your life. This doesn't mean you have to become emotionless or robotic. It means you learn to pause, process, and then act from clarity, not chaos. Emotions are signals, not instructions. They can inform your decisions, but they shouldn't dictate them. Anger might tell you something's wrong, but that doesn't mean you blow up. Fear might signal risk, but that doesn't mean you run away. Number 7, the courage to walk away. One of the hardest decisions you'll ever make on your path to success is knowing when to walk away from a job, a relationship, a business, or even a long-held dream that no longer serves who you are or where you're going. Walking away isn't giving up. It's not weakness. It's one of the most courageous acts of self-respect you can ever commit to. The world praises perseverance. Never quit. Keep pushing. Grind until it works. And yes, there is value in grit. But grit without clarity can turn into self-sabotage. Sometimes, the bravest thing you can do is to admit something is no longer right for you, and then take the bold step to let it go. We often hold on for the wrong reasons. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of disappointing others. We stay too long in toxic jobs because we've invested years. We cling to one-sided friendships because of shared history. We keep pursuing goals that no longer inspire us just because they used to. But here's the truth. What brought you here may not be what will take you forward. Take Nina, for example. She is a successful actress in her early 30s. She had spent over a decade in the film industry, landing decent roles and earning respect from her peers. But behind the scenes, she felt trapped. The constant pressure to please casting directors, the grind of auditions, and the artificial relationships were slowly draining her. She dreamed of starting a creative studio that supported independent filmmakers, something that lit her up. But she was terrified of letting go. She worried what people would think. Would she be seen as a failure? Would she be throwing everything away? For a long time she stayed, smiling on camera, showing up at parties, chasing roles she no longer wanted. But the more she stayed, the more she lost herself. Until one day, she decided to choose peace over pressure. She walked away, not in defeat, but in power. Within a year, she had launched her own platform, funded her first project, and began mentoring others. She didn't fail, she shifted. And in that shift, she found freedom. High performers know how to manage their emotional state without being ruled by it. They feel fear and move forward anyway. They feel doubt but trust their preparation. They feel frustration but stay professional. That kind of discipline is rare and powerful. Another thing to consider is how emotions can cloud judgment, especially in moments that require strategy, not sensitivity. Imagine negotiating a contract. If you're too emotionally invested, you might accept less than you're worth just to avoid discomfort. If you're leading a team and you avoid difficult conversations because they feel awkward, you'll end up tolerating underperformance and resentment. Emotions, when left checked, will push you to protect your comfort instead of pursuing your growth. This is where a ruthless mindset comes in. Not cold but clear, not detached but discerning. It's the ability to feel something and still do what needs to be done. It's saying, yes, this is hard. Yes, I feel overwhelmed, but I'm going to show up anyway. Your dreams don't care about your bad mood. Your goals won't wait until you feel motivated. Some of the most important actions you'll ever take will happen on the days you least feel like taking them. And that's what separates winners from wishers. The discipline to act in alignment with your vision, not your feelings. So the next time your emotions rise up and try to steer you off course, take a breath. Ask yourself, what does my future self need from me right now? That question grounds you. It shifts the focus from the present discomfort to the long-term reward. And when you learn to think like that consistently, you start to gain serious momentum. In the end, your emotions are a part of your journey, but they aren't the driver. You are. And if you want to execute at a high level, build something meaningful, and rise above the average, you'll need to master the art of doing what needs to be done, even when it doesn't feel good in the moment. Because success doesn't follow your emotions. It follows your execution. You might think, what's the lesson here? Walking away is not about quitting. It's about making space. Space for something better, something more aligned, something more meaningful. Staying in the wrong thing for too long can cost you your health, your happiness, and your future. But we trick ourselves into thinking that holding on is strength, when often it's fear dressed up as loyalty. You have to ask yourself, is this helping me grow? Does this align with the person I'm becoming? Or am I just staying because it's familiar? Familiar isn't always right. Comfort isn't always safe. And sometimes the most dangerous place to be is the one that looks stable on the outside but is crumbling within. It takes courage to walk away because it means stepping into the unknown. There are no guarantees, no applause, no roadmap. But what you do gain is agency. You take back the power to choose what comes next. That kind of ownership is where real success begins. Not everyone will understand your decision. That's okay. Not everyone needs to. You don't need to justify your exit from anything that doesn't serve you. People will have opinions. Let them. You're not living their life. You're building your own. You'll know it's time to walk away when your inner voice grows louder than the noise around you. When staying starts to feel like shrinking. When the cost of holding on becomes too high. That's when you listen. That's when you let go. And remember this, you're not starting over. You're starting wiser. Every experience you leave behind gave you something: lessons, clarity, strength. You're not walking away empty-handed. You're walking away with the tools you need to build something better. Sometimes the breakthrough you're chasing only shows up after the breakdown. And sometimes your next chapter won't begin until you close the last one. Don't be afraid to turn the page. So if there's something or someone you've been afraid to release, ask yourself what it's really costing you. Your energy, your purpose, your joy. Then ask yourself if you're willing to keep paying that price. Because success isn't about staying stuck in the name of perseverance. It's about moving forward with intention, even if that means leaving something behind. Walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. Number 8. The strength of saying no. There's a word that many people say, not because it's difficult, but because it carries weight. No. It's a word that can protect your peace, guard your goals, and reclaim your time. But too often, we avoid it out of fear. Fear of disappointing others, fear of conflict, or fear of being seen as selfish. The truth is, saying no isn't a weakness. It's one of the greatest strengths you can develop. We're conditioned to believe that the more we say yes, the more valuable we become. Yes to extra work. Yes to social obligations. Yes to things we don't want to do. But in reality, the more we say yes without intention, the more we dilute our focus, energy, and purpose. Every yes has a cost. And when you say yes to something that doesn't align with your goals, you're essentially saying no to something that does. Take Riley, for example. She is a marketing consultant who had the potential to scale her freelance business into an agency. She was skilled, ambitious, and had built a strong client base. But she couldn't stop saying yes. Low-budget clients, endless revisions, weekend calls, projects that drained her. She thought being available and agreeable would lead to growth, but it did the opposite. She was burnt out, underpaid, and constantly behind. The turning point came when she started saying no. No to clients who didn't respect her time. No to projects that didn't excite her. No to anything that pulled her away from her long-term vision. Within a year, her income doubled. Not because she worked more, but because she focused better. That's the power of no. It's not about rejection. It's about redirection. It tells the world what you're willing to accept and what you're not. It builds boundaries. It demands respect. It creates clarity. Most importantly, it gives you control over your life. The fear of saying no often stems from a desire to be liked. We don't want to offend. We don't want to let people down. But here's the reality. The people who respect you won't be upset when you say no. They'll understand. And the people who get offended when you protect your time were benefiting from your lack of boundaries. No is also a tool for focus. In a world filled with endless distractions, your ability to say no determines how far you'll go. Not every opportunity is meant for you. Not every invitation deserves a spot on your calendar. When you learn to say no to the things that don't move you forward, you create space for the things that do. This applies to relationships too. Saying no doesn't just mean declining tasks or requests. Sometimes it means saying no to toxic dynamics, draining conversations, or environments that lower your energy. You have every right to protect your mental and emotional space. You have every right to choose what and who you allow into your world. Saying no also builds confidence. The more you practice it, the stronger you become. At first, it might feel awkward. You'll worry about how people perceive you, but over time it becomes second nature. You begin to realize that your life doesn't fall apart when you decline a request. In fact, it becomes more peaceful, more focused, more aligned. To be clear, saying no doesn't mean being rude or dismissive. It's not about shutting people out. It's about being clear and honest. No can be said with kindness. It can sound like, I appreciate the offer, but I'm not available for that, or that's not something I can commit to right now. Respectful doesn't mean passive. Direct doesn't mean cruel. You can set a firm boundary with a calm voice and still stand strong. You don't need to explain your no in great detail. You don't need to justify it to anyone. No is a complete sentence. The more power you give it, the more power you self. The ability to say no is the foundation of self-respect. It shows that you honor your time, your goals, and your energy. And in a world that constantly demands more of you, this strength becomes your armor. So if you've been saying yes out of guilt, pressure, or fear, pause. Ask yourself, does this serve my future? Will I regret this later? If the answer is no, then let your answer be no. You're not here to live at the mercy of other people's expectations. You're here to build a life of purpose. And that begins the moment you realize that every no to distraction is a powerful yes to yourself. Number 9, ruthlessness without losing your humanity. The word ruthless often triggers a negative reaction. We picture someone cold, cutthroat, and willing to crush anyone in their path to get ahead. And for a long time, that's how the world defined it. But that's a narrow and dangerous view, because true, lasting success isn't about stepping on others. It's about stepping up for yourself, without stepping away from your humanity. There's a powerful middle ground, being ruthlessly committed to your goals, while still treating people with empathy and respect. This balance is where true leadership and real success are born. Many people think it has to be either or. You're either kind and get walked over, or you're ruthless and become heartless. But that's not reality. The strongest people know how to protect their vision without destroying relationships. They make tough decisions. They set boundaries. They say no. But they do it with compassion, not cruelty. Let's look at Javier, a CEO who took over a struggling family business. When he stepped in, the company was operating with outdated systems, poor leadership, and emotional attachments that held back growth. He faced tough choices, cutting unnecessary roles, streamlining teams, and pushing forward with major changes. But instead of treating people like numbers, he handled every decision with transparency and care. He offered support, guidance, and clear communication. Some people left, others stayed, but all of them respected him because he didn't sacrifice his humanity for results. And under his leadership, the company didn't just survive, it grew exponentially. That's what modern ruthlessness looks like. It's not fueled by ego or revenge. It's grounded in clarity, discipline, and the courage to make the right call, even when it's uncomfortable. But it's guided by empathy. You don't bulldoze others to get what you want. You stay firm without being cruel. You lead with both a spine and a heart. The reality is, success will often require you to make decisions that others won't understand. Not everyone will agree with your boundaries. Not everyone will like the fact that you prioritize your time, or that you've chosen a different path. But if your actions are rooted in intention, not malice, you're not being heartless, you're being focused. Empathy without backbone leads to burnout. Ruthlessness without empathy leads to loneliness. But when you blend the two, you become unstoppable. You gain the strength to stand your ground and the emotional intelligence to understand the impact of your decisions. The biggest myth is that being nice will earn you success. In truth, being kind earns respect, but only when paired with courage. People admire those who stay true to their word, hold to their vision, and still treat others well in the process. Sometimes being kind means telling someone the truth they don't want to hear. Sometimes it means cutting ties with someone who's been with you for years. Sometimes it means saying no even when it disappoints people. Those moments feel tough, but they are essential. You cannot lead a meaningful life if you are constantly trying to protect everyone's comfort at the expense of your own mission. Being ruthlessly focused on your goals doesn't mean ignoring people. It means you stop sacrificing your peace to meet their expectations. It means you communicate clearly, set boundaries, and protect your priorities, all while staying rooted in integrity. And remember, empathy isn't just about how you treat others, it's also how you treat yourself. It's recognizing when you're burning out. It's allowing yourself to rest, to recalibrate, to say, I need space. A lot of high achievers are kind to everyone except themselves. But to sustain your journey, you have to give yourself grace too. So how do you know you've struck the balance? When you can make the tough decisions with a clear conscience. When you can look someone in the eye, deliver a hard truth, and still maintain your self-respect and theirs. When your path forward is clear, not because you forced your way through, but because you stood your ground with honesty and strength. The world doesn't need more cold-hearted ambition. It needs more clear-headed leaders with empathy and grit. You don't have to be feared to be respected. You don't have to be harsh to be powerful. You just have to be intentional. Stay soft where it counts. Stay strong where it matters. That's the formula for greatness. That's how you remain human while building something extraordinary. Number 10. Redefining what success looks like. Success. It's a word that's thrown around constantly but often misunderstood. We're sold a version of success that looks the same for everyone. Fancy titles, high income, a big house, social media applause, and constant hustle. But chasing someone else's definition of success is one of the fastest ways to lose yourself. The truth is, real success isn't about how it looks. It's about how it feels. It's not about impressing others. It's about living a life that aligns with your values, your goals, and your peace of mind. If you're constantly hustling, constantly saying yes, constantly pushing past your limits just to be seen as successful, ask yourself, successful to who? There comes a point where you have to pause and ask the harder question. What does success mean to me? Not your boss, not your parents, not your peers. You. Because without your own definition, you'll always chase someone else's dream. And no matter how fast you run, if the finish line isn't yours, you'll never feel fulfilled when you cross it. Look at Devin, a musician who spent years chasing a record deal. He did everything right, networked, collaborated, performed at every venue that would take him. Eventually, he got what he thought he wanted, a contract. But with it came pressure to change his sound, conform to trends, and meet expectations that didn't reflect his artistry. He had a choice: chase the image of mainstream success or reclaim his creative freedom. He chose the latter, walked away from the deal, built his own studio, and began releasing music on his terms. He may not be topping charts, but he's built a loyal fan base, full creative control, and most importantly, that's his version of success. We live in a world that idolizes being busy. We equate success with being overbooked, constantly grinding, never resting. But burnout is not a badge of honor. Being overwhelmed isn't proof of value. Success should add to your life, not take the life out of you. If your version of success is built on stress, guilt, and exhaustion, it's time to redesign it. Redefining success also means letting go of outdated metrics. It means understanding that fulfillment often comes from saying no to more, so you can say yes to what truly matters. It means recognizing that climbing the ladder is pointless if it's leaning against the wrong wall. It means acknowledging that growth looks different for everyone. Sometimes success is expansion, and sometimes it's simplification. There's also an emotional side to this. Many people stay stuck because they're chasing recognition instead of purpose. They want to be applauded for what they do, even if it's draining them. But if your path is built around being liked, admired, or validated, you'll never stop running. Because external validation fades, and when it does, what are you left with? True success is quiet. It's waking up and feeling excited about your day. It's doing work that challenges and fulfills you. It's being surrounded by people who support you, not drain you. It's freedom. Freedom to choose how you spend your time, who you spend it with, and what you give your energy to. And no one can define that for you but you. You don't need 1 million followers to be successful. You don't need to be famous, flashy, or constantly praised. You just need to be aligned with your purpose, your peace, and your personal standards. If you're proud of how you live, if you're growing in the direction that feels right to you, that's success. Redefining success also gives you permission to pivot, to let go of goals that no longer serve you, to shift directions when you outgrow your old path. Growth requires flexibility, and sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is admit that what you thought you wanted isn't what you want anymore. There's power in creating your own metrics. Maybe your version of success is working 4 hours a day and spending the rest with your family. Maybe it's building something from scratch, regardless of how long it takes. Maybe it's doing meaningful work behind the scenes, far from the spotlight. Whatever it is, own it. Because success isn't a destination, it's a way of living, a way of showing up, a way of honoring your values. And when you stop chasing what looks good and start building what feels good, everything changes. So take a moment, let go of the noise, get honest with yourself, define success in your own terms, and then pursue it unapologetically. That's when life stops feeling like a performance and starts becoming something real, something rewarding, something worth waking up for. If there's one truth that's echoed through every chapter of this message, it's this: being too nice can cost you everything. Your time, your peace, your purpose. And while kindness is a strength, niceness, when rooted in fear, approval seeking, or avoidance, can become a silent killer of dreams. You are never meant to live your life on someone else's terms. You weren't born to people please, to shrink yourself for comfort, or to carry the weight of expectations that don't reflect your true path. You were born to build something powerful, to live with clarity, and to move through life with purpose. But you can't do that if you're constantly saying yes to things that drain you. If you're afraid to set boundaries, or if you tiptoe around your own goals just to keep others happy. Ruthlessness doesn't mean becoming heartless. It means becoming unapologetically committed to what matters most. It's choosing growth over comfort, vision over approval. It's learning to say no, not because you're closed off, but because you're focused. And when you pair that strength with empathy, you become a force rooted in integrity, yet driven by intention. You don't need to ask for permission to reclaim your power. You don't need to explain why you're choosing yourself. The life you want is waiting for you, but only if you're willing to stop being available to everything and start being available to what matters. So take this with you. Be kind, but firm. Be compassionate, but clear. Be empathetic, but unshakable. And most importantly, be honest with yourself about what you want and what you're no longer willing to tolerate. You don't have to be liked by everyone to be successful. You just have to be aligned with yourself. Start today. Say no without guilt. Set boundaries without apology. Walk away when it's time. Stand tall when it's hard. And above all, keep moving forward with focus, with clarity, and with the quiet confidence of someone who knows exactly where they're going.